record. And we are recording. So again, I'm Erin Valdez, and we're with Lauren Snyder, both instructional technology specialists for the district. And our focus today is taking our traditional documents and turning them into a more engaging lesson for our distance learning. So we'll be doing that by looking at some different Google apps that will help build those lessons and change the way the students are interacting from home. So again, just real quick, expectations, muting the mic. If you do need to ask a question and we ask you to jump on, we may mute you if it forgets to get turned off. Use that Q&A section, and then again, just in case anyone else jumped in recently, we are recording this session. We're going to start off. Lauren is going to show you some different ways to take documents that are already existing and make them more interactive.
That's right. Hey, everyone. So let me get my screen shared real quick. Okay, so we're going to start with Word docs just because I think we can all agree as teachers, a lot of us have used Word pretty frequently. This is a Word document that I made back in like 2013 when I was a math teacher. And back then we weren't really using Google that much, you know? And so I had this as a Word document and then I put it in my Google Drive. And so I went to find it today and it is still a Word document. You can see the W over here, which means it's still in Word format. And instead of opening it like it would open a Google Doc, it's in a preview, which means I can't really edit it the way it is now. But if I have a Word document in my Google Drive, I can click Open With and select Google Docs, and it will open the Word document as a Google Doc. Now, you'll notice up here, it tells you .docx to let you know that this is still technically a Word document, but you can convert it to a Google Doc. One thing you need to know is when you do this, when you convert it over, or even if you just open up a Word document in Google Docs, it does mess with the formatting a little bit. So when you do this, you're going to have to check, like look over here. I had some nice, beautiful shapes to help box in my answers and they have moved. So I'm going to delete them out because they make literally 0 sense where they are right now. And so then I'm also going to need to be checking each element to see, you know, how did this transfer over? Like if I click here, this is just normal text on a document, so I can start typing and editing right away. This right here, it came over as a picture. And then this right here transferred in as a Google drawing. And the reason I know that is because there's an edit button here, whereas with this one, there's no edit button, so that's just an image. So I need to know how things transferred over so I know how to manipulate the different items to be what I want them to be. Now, again, I used to teach math, and one thing that's really important in math is that students show their thinking, that they show their thought process. The work is almost more important than the answer. And it's really difficult for students to show work in a Word document like this, unless you have them insert a Google Doc. Or not Google Doc, sorry, Google Drawing. So before I do that though, I would recommend going ahead and converting this document over to a Google Doc. And so the way you convert, like I know it looks like a Google Doc, but remember it's still a Word document, and I know that right here. So the way that I make sure it's permanently converted to a Google Doc is I click on File and then Save as Google Docs. And so it's saving a copy of that document as a Google Docs file. So it looks exactly like it did in the Google Docs preview of the Word document, but now it is truly in Google Docs form and I can manipulate everything, edit everything, and it's gonna be great. So, like I said, I want my students to show their thinking. And I realize not everybody in here teaches math. You might be science or ELAR or even an elective, but you may want them to do something where they have to annotate or draw a diagram or interact with the document in some way. In order to do that, you're going to need a Google Drawing. So what I wanted the students to do was I wanted them to represent the solution on a number line, which means they're going to have to draw on it, but they can't do it when it's just a picture. So I'm going to select the picture, and if I right click on it, I can cut the picture, okay, which is like copying, only it removes it from that location. And then I'm going to click where I want to see that number line again. Where that cursor is blinking is where I'm going to insert the Google drawing, and that's where I want it to go. So I'm going to come up here to insert, hover over drawing, and click new. And it opens up a Google Drawing box. If you're not familiar with Google Drawings, it's very similar to Microsoft Paint. I used to play with that all the time as a kid, but this is way better. So I just pasted that number line in there. I hit Control V, it's a handy dandy little keyboard shortcut. And so I pasted it in there, and then I'm kind of centering it in the Google Drawing just because I want my kids to have space to doodle on it, to show their work. And the kids may not know what this is here for, so I can always add a text box and tell them what I want them to do. So if I save and close, it inserts that Google Drawing right there, and then it has the instructions. So it says double click on the number line to show your work. So if I'm a student in this document, I go, oh, okay, and I double click on it, and boom, there it is. And then the kids can use the scribble tool to write. And of course, it's going to look way better than that, but they can use the scribble tool to write and show their work, and then it pops it in there for them. So I'm going to undo that last bit, because that line is just unattractive. All right. So you'll notice, though, when I popped it in there, it pushed some of the other things down. So just keep in mind, when you add Google Drawings into a Google Doc, it is going to shift things and move them around. So you'll have to play with the formatting a little bit. Erin, do we have any questions yet? No? Okay. So here you notice I have some dividing lines between problems. But I don't always have dividing lines between problems. And so this one is another example of work that I used to have my students do. And if I was trying to do this in distance learning, like they could type their answers in here pretty easily, but this is combining integers. So it incorporates order of operations and a bunch of other things. And so the process step by step from how they get from here to their answer, especially on a problem like this, can be pretty complex. And I want to see what they're doing to make sure they understand. And so I can do something similar here where, again, I'm going to click where I want the Google Drawing to be. I'm going to come up to Insert, Drawing, New. And because there's not a whole lot of distinction between the problems on that page, I'm actually going to create a frame around the outside of this Google Drawing by inserting a shape. So I'm inserting a rectangle. It automatically gives it a blue fill color, which I don't want. I want it to be transparent. So I'll click on the paint bucket and make it transparent. And then I may choose to, let's see, border weight. My cursor is like too big, but it says border weight. I can make that a little thicker so the box is more noticeable. And then I can double click in this box. Let's see, double click in the box, delete out the text, and show your work using the scribble tool. So I can tell my students what I want them to do. I can make that font nice and big. I can center it if I want. And now when I save and close, it pops it in there. But you'll notice it takes up the whole width of the page. So I'm going to have to resize that Google Drawing to make it specific to that problem. And now you can see there's a box around where I want their work to be, and it's clear to them what they need to do. Instead of having to create a unique Google Drawing for each of these problems, I can just click on this Google Drawing to where it's selected, and then I can do Control-C, which is a keyboard shortcut for copy, or I can right-click and select copy, and then I can paste. And so I've got multiple Google Drawings with the exact same formatting, but I'm not having to go in there and make a box and type the text every single time. So Erin, did I see some questions or comments flash up? You're muted.
No.
All of that. Okay. So how do we feel about this? Does anybody have any questions about this before I move on to something else? All right, we're going to keep going. So a lot of things that you guys are given. Let's see. I see a couple things going on in the chat.
I'm glad to see that we can Control C to copy paste.
Yes, that also makes me happy. Okay. So a lot of us also have PDF documents, PDF resources. What do I even have up here? I have a bunch of things open. Okay. So let's say that I'm a science teacher, which I also taught that for a while. Let's say that I want the kids to interact with this image. You know, this has to do with moon phases. This is a PDF, okay? So I have a PDF resource, but if I were to try to put a PDF in Google Classroom, the kids can't interact with it. It's the same thing for a Word document. If I were to try to put a Word document in Google Classroom, the kids can't interact with it. They can look at it on the screen, they can copy stuff down on paper and do their work, or they can print it out, but they can't interact with it digitally. So I want to make this something that my kids can interact with. And what I'm going to use is my Snip and Sketch tool, which is like the snipping tool on steroids. It's great. All right, so here, can y'all see Snip and Sketch? Is it showing up? Yes, excellent. So I'm going to click New to create a new snip. And I'm going to snip the area of the PDF that I want. When I do a snip, it's essentially like I am making a copy of a picture. It's not saving it as an image, but it is making a copy of the picture, kind of like copy paste. And what I'm going to do is I am going to get that. So y'all can't see it, but the little zoom toolbar keeps popping down and I can't click on my tabs. I'll outwit it, it's fine. So I'm gonna go into the folder where I want to create my interactive piece for the kids, and I'm going to click New, and I'm actually going to choose Google Slides. So Google Slides is much more than a presentation tool. I know Erin will agree with me, we actually don't use it for presentations hardly at all. It does a bunch of other really neat things. And so we're gonna show you a few of those today. Google Slides is nice because you can put a bunch of things in here like images and text boxes, and they can overlap. That's not possible in a Google Doc. They kind of have to be side by side and they bump each other around. So when I open a Google Slides presentation, there's always this, right? Some kind of template. This is a title slide. If I click on layout, I can see all the different templates for layouts, right? And it puts the text boxes in here for me. I personally find that annoying, so I delete the text boxes out. I like to start with a clean slate, and I'm going to paste, so I can Control V or right click and paste that snip onto my slide. And this is really great. I could push it out to kids like this and have them do something interactive, but because I pasted it on top of the slide, kids could accidentally move it, or they could accidentally delete it. And then they're gonna panic and they don't know what to do. So I'm going to show you two ways to make that snip of your PDF an immovable object. My favorite way is to come into something called the master slide. Okay, so I'm gonna click on slide and edit master. Remember how I showed you guys when I clicked on layout, there were all those templates for layouts? That's what I'm changing now. I'm changing the templates for the layouts. So this is the title slide, right? This is exactly what it looked like when I clicked on the slide initially. It gave me two text boxes, one for the title and one for a subtitle. I'm going to delete those. And now I'm going to paste in my image. I can center it, I can change the size, I can add text in here if I want to, and then I'm just going to click this X to exit the editing screen. Now, if I look at this slide and I try to move that picture, it's not going anywhere. It has become part of the template for this slide, and kids can't accidentally delete it or move it. Now, if I click on layout here again, you'll see that the layout for my title slide is that snip. Okay, it's what I just made. So if I were to go in, if I wanted a different background, if I wanted to snip another portion of the PDF, I would go into the slide master or the master slides, whatever, and I would click on a different slide in the layout and I would delete out the stuff. So let me just get another PDF and I'll snip and stick something in there. So this is something I made for 7th grade science. Also made this in Google Slides, by the way, and just saved it as a PDF. So I took a snip, and now that's not the one I want. I want this one. So I'm in that, the place where I can edit the master slides, right? I'm gonna paste on that blank slide. All right, I'm not gonna worry about orienting it right now. And then I'm going to exit out of the editing screen, and you'll notice it's nowhere to be found, right? But if I wanted a new slide, I could click that little down arrow next to it and then choose that one. And again, it's not movable. So I can interact with the things on the slide without moving them, okay? I'm gonna show you one other way to do this, but it has a little bit of a catch. It's not my preferred way, but it is the preferred way for several teachers. So it's kind of one of those, whatever your preference is. So I'm gonna pick a layout that I've not messed with yet. But again, I want to delete out the text boxes. I guess I could have just put in a blank slide. That would have been easy. So I've got my snip right here. And remember I said when you take a snip, it's like making a copy of a picture so that you can paste it. But it didn't save it as a picture. So I need to save it as a picture by clicking that really super awesome floppy disk. And I'm going to save it, name it. And now that it's an image, I can come to my Google Slides and click this button that says background. And I can choose an image and I can upload the picture that I just saved from my snip. Now I told you there was a catch to this, and the catch is it will take the picture and stretch it to fill the slide. So if your snip is not a similar shape as the slide, it's gonna look really, really crazy. I demonstrated that earlier with a really fun snip of me and Erin's faces from the webinar, but I'm gonna do it from here this time. Like maybe I just want my kids to do this column right here. Maybe they don't need to do the second column because this is enough practice for distance learning. So, I gotta save that as a picture. I'm gonna save it as a picture. Bring it in as a background. And it's atrocious. It looks terrible. So it's still workable, but it's stretched really, really weird. So just something to consider. Both ways are great options, but I would only use this method if you are okay with taking snips that are the same shape as your slide. So why are we even putting things into Google Slides, right?
Just a second. We have a question, and I want you to address, because I think others may have this question as well. How can you create the same image on all slides? So if you want to show them how to put the background in so that it goes onto all slides, and that you can insert multiple slides with the same template.
Yes. Well, so if I wanted to do the same background on all the slides, and Erin, there may be ways that you know that I don't know. So if I skip something, feel free to chime in. What comes to my mind is when I am making the templates here, I can select the same one over and over and over again. So if I'm adding a new slide, I can just continue to choose the same layout. And I believe if I click the plus sign, it should keep picking the same layout that I just had again and again and again. So I can keep doing it that way, and then all of the slides have the same background. I'm sure there's more ways. Erin, do you have a different way in mind?
So with that, that's the way I would do it if I was choosing from the slide layouts. If
Yes.
I was, the other way would be like when you've set the background, one of the option is you can set it to the theme and then all the backgrounds go to it.
Yes. Okay. So right here, add to theme, and then done. Okay. So did that adequately answer that question? Yes, no?
Yes, and thank
Yay!
you.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about why. Oh, see, and because I did that add to theme, it's back here behind this. So it's going to look a little crazy right now, but that's okay. Actually, what if I just, nope. All right, well, okay. So I'm going to come here and I want the students to interact with this. So if I'm a science teacher, I could tell them, like, maybe I have a shape on the slide. So I'm going to draw a circle. Okay, it automatically fills it with white, but I can make it transparent. I can change the border color to something bright so it stands out. I can make this thicker. And then I could tell them, I want you to put this around the position of the moon. That would give you the full moon. And so they could drag it and put it around that object. So they're interacting with it a little more than they would if it was just like on their screen as a PDF. Here, oh, that looks so trippy. Okay, I'm going to do something real quick just to help my brain because this is a lot going on. Okay, I feel better about life. So I can insert text boxes on top of these blanks. So if it's a passage of text and I want the students to answer a question, I can go ahead and insert text boxes where I want them to answer questions. But if I click off of it, you'll notice they're never going to notice a text box there if I leave it the way it is. If I change the text box to have a super bright color fill, let's choose this one. I mean, no one can miss a hot pink text box. So somewhere in your instructions, whether you type instructions down here for the students or whether you type it in Google Classroom or wherever you're sharing it, you can tell them, hey, anywhere you see a hot pink box, you double click it to answer. That's where your answers are. And so I can literally just copy and paste this and have a text box for all my questions. Okay, so that's why you might want to use Google Slides to transfer PDFs in because they can interact. Are there any, and I mean, this is not by any means an exhaustive list of what you can do, but just showing you a few things that are possible. And then if you are like, I wonder if, or could I, you can ask me and Erin or your campus ITS and they can tell you yes or no and show you how. So that's all I've got. Erin, are there any questions?
There are not.
Okay. So I have stopped sharing my screen.
And I'm going to take over and share my screen.
Perfect.
And we are going to take a look at a few different things that can also happen in Google Slides and using an additional Google tool called Jamboard. And in fact, I think I'm going to show you Jamboard first because Lauren showed you slides and I have a feeling your minds are going, cool, we can do this, sweet things. I want to show you Jamboard as well, just so you can see an additional collaborative tool that is a part of our Google Suite for education. So in a new tab, or if you go to google.com and you get your waffle, your Google apps here in the corner, you can click, and Jamboard is kind of towards the bottom, but it's an odd little logo. It's a JB, I guess. But the way a Jamboard works is you get multiple like whiteboard services that can be drawn on, left sticky notes on, import images to, and other things like that. Fun part is you can collaborate with multiple students or an entire class if you want to have students planning a story together or working on a project or other assignments. You can have a collaborative space for them here that is shared just like you would any other document using a share link or by inviting them through their email. So like I can invite Lauren and we can both be in here at the same time, taking notes and, you know, planning our documents and maybe a presentation. My keyboard writing is not great. I can put in sticky notes if I'd rather do that. It's also a lot neater. Drag those sticky notes over, and we can organize thoughts and ideas and different things. We can also share this with other classmates if they want to be a part, if they are a part of our group, and we can add additional boards to plan out whatever it is we are working on. One of the things that I have done with students and other teachers is in a document that belongs to an individual, I've posted a shared Jamboard so the students can collaborate in one space, but then use that individual space for their assignment. So they may have some individual work that they need to do and some group work they need to do, or a place to have a sounding board for their ideas and things like that. And then they have their final place that they're bringing all of their ideas together that they'll submit to me individually. So I could take this shared link, make it so that people with the link can access or edit, depending on what I want them to be able to do, excuse me. And then in my documents, this is actually a interactive notebook that was built for 4th grade science. It's been used at several different grade levels, but I could include a text box with, that is the wrong thing. Apparently I did not copy my link. Copy. I could have their Jamboard up here as a link, if it'll let me link it. And so they are working individually on an assignment here, but they have a place to put experiment notes for their team or photos that they're going to share. They can all be uploaded into this Jamboard, so they all have access to the right things. And as a teacher, I can monitor how they're working together virtually because I'm an owner of that Jamboard. So Jamboard is a fun, cool item. It allows you to bring pictures in that you already have or search Google Images, which is great, especially when you have younger students who are working on an experiment or trying to work through a project and maybe they don't have access to some of those things, a camera or something at home to document their own work. They can find something that would represent their work through an image search and share them with their classmates and their teacher. So that is Jamboard, and there's a lot more to Jamboard that goes along with that. You can do backgrounds. Again, you can like assign, there's 20 different boards that can be popped up here if you create new frames. And you could assign different boards to different students if you want them to focus their work in one place and then share as a group. But the biggest part is this ability to kind of move things and drag them around to be a part of the planning process, help students put things in order, maybe nix things that they thought were a good idea at the beginning, or come back to something that they had originally gotten rid of. So it's all still here for them. I lost my tab. Okay, so back to Google Slides. Does anybody have questions about Jamboard before I obnoxiously jump back to what we were doing?
I have not seen any questions yet, so I think you are free to move forward.
All right, cool. And we can always come back to Jamboard later if anyone has a question. So this is like I said, a digital science notebook that was created with a science specialist. And the idea behind it was to give students a place to permanently store their science information. We've all seen the kids running through the hallways out to the bus or whatever it may be with their notebook, and it falls on the floor and they never wrote their name in it, and it's gone forever because that's what happens. I don't care what grade they're in, kinder through 12th grade, it happens. So we were trying to find a way to help keep these items always available to the students. And if they lose a paper or two, it's not as big a deal as if they lose their entire notebook. So we took what Lauren was talking about, using those master slides and editing things. We went through and actually created from scratch different science kind of worksheets to plan out their notebook. It walks them through the different aspects of lab safety. We have vocabulary worksheets. We even built in a table of contents so they can link to different slides and get keep things in order and organized. We also built additional templates. So as the teachers say, okay, today we're going to use the lab evidence slide with text and images, the student can come in, find it, click on it, and it pops that in. And the teacher can even tell them this needs to be slide 9 or 10, so they can drag it to the right place and then add it as a part of their table of contents to link that slide. This gives them, tells them where to write, has image savers and things like that, and it is all built within those master slides. And when you look at the edit master section, it's a little different. So it shows you text levels, gives you different information in the text boxes, and this is determined based on what type of text box you put in. When you're in a traditional slide and you place a text box, the only option you have is to start typing in it. When you're in master slides and you go to your text box, you have the traditional text box, which lets you put in text, like up here where it says lab evidence, but then you also get some placeholder text boxes. These control what size font and style is used at that box. So when the students go and start typing, it'll put it in as a title or a subtitle or smaller text if it's a place that they should be writing out more information. So I'm going to jump back one more time so you can see. This is what it looks like for the students. It says click to add title and then click to add text. As a creator, when I'm building, it can look a little overwhelming because my text boxes will start to stack over each other because they're showing me what it looks like as you add, like, what are these called? Bullets, as you add different levels of bullets. So it looks like they're overlapping, but when the students get their hands on it or their mice on it, it doesn't do that. You can see the text box is confined here. The students can type their little information. And as a teacher, part of my directions would be when you see a gray box with the rounded edges, I want you to place a picture. They're not gonna delete this box. It's stuck there, it's permanent, but it tells me and tells them this is where an image goes. Sometimes my directions may be take a picture of what you have done and place it in there. It may be search for an image to represent what you have done, or it could even be draw using the scribble tool to show me your first step. And so maybe my first step was to fill my beaker to a certain, or my I guess that's a flask. But to fill my liquid to a certain point. And so I would use this to label. And the cool part is in Google Slides, the students can zoom in and actually get very detailed in the work they are doing. So the way this was all set up was, again, using these master slide, and we basically dumped everything that was already built or the templates that were already in there, and we created our own templates. We also took advantage of Google Slides letting you change your page setup so that it is custom instead of just the regular widescreen that we typically present in to fit the projector screen. We did a custom setup, so A, there's room, but B, if I am in a situation where, well, darn, I thought I had checked out the computer cart and either I didn't and I forgot, or someone took my name off the list and the lab's not available today, I can run off an individual page and have my students do it by hand. We can then snap a picture and put the picture of their page into their science notebook the next time we're able to get on the computer. Now, some of you are going, well, I don't need a 30-page science notebook, Erin. That's cool. I'm not saying you need a 30-page science notebook. I just like to show that you can build quite a few things for yourself, even if you're not sharing it with your students, into one document, and you could run your entire school year out of one Google Slides document. So you could have them just in order of unit or however you need to disseminate information to your students, and use these as your templates for giving students work. Maybe I'm only doing vocabulary. I will zoom back out so we can actually look at that. Maybe I'm only doing vocabulary and I want to send this out to my students. They have to do, they have to do the vocabulary word, then they have to do the definition, then they have to find a picture to represent that vocabulary word, and then they have to write it in a sentence. I would just share this one slide with them, and then they're able to come in and do all the editing and everything that I want them to do. Again, this is built as one of those backgrounds. They can't change this. I have given you 3 vocabulary words, or 6, maybe I've got multiple pages. 6 vocabulary words. These are due by the end of the week. I want to see that you can do your own sentence or whatever it may be, and they turn around and resubmit it to you. The fun part with Google Slides is I can take this slide, copy it. Where's my folder? Make a new slideshow. Wait for it to finish loading. It doesn't want to paste. So we want to say keep original style. It didn't resize it. Darn. Sorry, you have to resize it first. I forgot. You have to change your page setup first, then paste if it is different from your traditional. So it's traditionally widescreen 16 by 9. Mine is an 8.5 by 11. Then I can paste it in. Keep my style. And I can delete that first slide unless I need some sort of title slide or a place to put my directions. I would delete this slide. And then depending on how many vocabulary words or how many tasks I have, I can copy and paste those slides. And we can say vocab unit 2. And then I can come to Google Classroom, and then in my classwork, add an assignment linking from my Google Drive. And then make a copy for each student so that I have an individual file for each of my students that I can see while they're working on it. So I'm going to assign this. Lauren is in my demo class. She's going to open it up and do a little bit of work on it. And then I will show you how I am able to check in on what my students are doing while they work. Especially with this distance learning, we're sending things out to them Monday morning at 8 a.m. and it's not due till midnight on Friday. Sometimes they forget. They'll open something and start working on it Monday because they're eager. They were bored over the weekend and they're ready to do something, and then they get distracted while they're working because they are at home. Can't lie, I get distracted sometimes when I'm at home. So they may forget to come back because in their mind they're going, well, yeah, I did the vocabulary. I opened it. I started working on it. You can come in and check on what they've worked on and even send them a message saying, hey, don't forget, Unit 2 is due at the end of day Friday. And that way they are able to catch back up and see what they're doing. So from the lesson, from the classwork, I can come to my lesson and go to view assignments. And then from here, there's a little folder I can open that has my assignments in them. And it's assigned to each of my students and it has their names associated to it. So I can open that assignment and I can see what Lauren is working on. So Lauren must want dessert. I can actually see what she's doing, see that she's got dessert and not desert. So she's looking at the right vocabulary and she's working on her work. So I'm not going to worry about it. She's doing a great job. It's Thursday. I come in to check on another student. Anne is also a coworker. She won't mind. And I see that Anne hasn't done any work yet. It's Thursday afternoon. They've got 6 vocabulary terms. You know, if we're in a more advanced class and this is new vocabulary, they may need some time. So I'm going to make a point to send Anne a message in classroom. I strongly encouraged my students to always have their alerts on. I know that they didn't always have them on. If they're in middle and high school, they will receive an email to let them know, hey, your teacher left you a comment. If they're in elementary school, they will not receive that email. So if you are using another form of communication with parents or students, it's a good way to say, hey, just real quick, so you know, this is due Friday and I haven't seen any work yet. The other fun part with Classroom is in here, if guardians have been added, they get a daily summary to see what is due and what is not turned in yet. So Anne's parents, if they check that guardian summary, would be able to see, hey, Anne, you have this work due and it's not submitted, it's due Friday. Have you started it? And they'll make them go, oh, no, I totally didn't work on that. Or I opened it and I didn't move forward with it. So that's all available and something that you can work with them through. So again, if I'm with Lauren, if I have hers open and I notice, you know, maybe she was giving me the definition of dessert, but the vocabulary word was actually desert, I can leave a comment for her saying, make sure you check that you are correct word. And she'll see that comment while she's working. It'll pop up, or the next time she gets into the document. So it's a nice way to have that back and forth with your students and give them feedback instantly instead of, okay, I assigned it on Monday, it was due on Friday, I finally got to look at it on Tuesday because I had so many kids to go through. Oh, Lauren was defining dessert with 2 S's because it's twice as sweet instead of desert, where we go and die every summer because it's hot. I need to have that conversation with her. And then by that time, Lauren's already forgotten that you even had a vocabulary assignment. So great way to have that feedback with your students. And I'm sorry, I keep checking my watch because this morning we went over time, and because Lauren and I really like Google Slides and all the cool things you can do in it. Like we could spend a whole day teaching you. And we went over time pretty massively earlier today. So I saw a question pop up or two.
Yes. So they want to know how you added the comment within my assignment. So not the private comment within Google Classroom, but actually in Google Slides.
So this is, like, as a teacher, this was my most favorite thing in the whole world. So I'm in my class. I know that I have some assignments out to my kids. I'm going to come into classwork. I'm going to go to the assignment that I want to check on. So right now, vocabulary unit 2. I'm going to view the assignment. And then when I'm looking at all my students, and let's be realistic, I know that you have 30 kids in your class, not 2.
At least, yeah.
There's a little folder here that is going to organize all of their files that I have given to them. Classroom makes this folder for you. You do not have to do anything for this to happen. And when you do an assignment and say make a copy for each student, it creates one with their name on it. You are a co-owner of that assignment. So you can open it. You can, let me wait for it to finish loading. Sorry, I get excited. You can like highlight a term and add a comment specifically to a word, which I should have done for that original comment to say, make sure you are don't judge my spelling. I have spell check. So now when Lauren comes in, she'll see that comment on her work. So it lets her, foxes live in the desert. It lets her see ants live in the desert. It lets her see what I've done. And I can do this for all of my kids. So instead of that, being in class and able to have those conversations, I can have it here now. Lauren can come in and leave a reply, or if she fixes it, when she fixes it, she can come in and say resolve, and it'll remove the comment so that A, she knows she addressed it and fixed it, and I also know that she saw my comments and was able to correct her mistake, and hopefully correct it before it was due. Cool. Any other questions?
I do not see any other questions yet. If people are typing questions, which we definitely welcome you to do, I do just want to reiterate the fact that the things we're showing you, I mean, there's endless possibilities, and there's a ton of things that you could do that we haven't shown you. I'm sure for many of you, your imaginations are going wild with how can we use what we've seen in this webinar and apply it to our content, our assignments. And if you need help figuring out how to transfer that stuff over, again, you can always reach out to either one of us or your campus instructional technology specialist. And the whole point is that we want our kids to be engaged. We want them to be interacting. We want them to be doing things that are meaningful, even in distance learning. I should probably say especially during distance learning, because it's really important that they feel a sense of purpose and meaning in the work they're doing, even when they're not at school.
Yep.
So does anyone have any questions about anything? You can type it in the Q&A, or you can unmute yourself to ask your question.
We are, based on our first webinar this morning and getting feedback from some of the attendees to that webinar, we are going to offer a part 2, more to focus on differentiated instruction while in distance learning, and how you can utilize these same tools to allow for that differentiation in your classes, and to help the students out with that. I know that there are a lot of instances where kids will just say, oh, okay, and then they just won't do it. If we can help you, and we want to help you, help them find an interest and find an excitement for what they are doing that is on their level, we want to do that. And we believe that we can very much help by utilizing these tools through Google Classroom, Google Slides, Jamboard, and other interactive items that are free to us to make that happen. So we will follow up. We'll send you an invite specifically for the part 2, but we will follow up with an additional webinar to move into that next phase. I am adding our social media link into the chat, so you guys can click a live link instead of just seeing it on the slide here. But we do post little tips and tricks through those social media outlets as well, to help kind of spur on that growth in distance learning.
Mm-hmm. And there's a podcast, which is always great.
There is an awesome podcast.
And we had someone ask earlier if this was being recorded and if it would be shared later. And yes, so we are still recording, and this will be on that distance learning website under webinars. There's a button that says recorded webinars. And if you click on that, this will be one of the many videos that you can find there. I think Erin is showing where to go.
Yes. So you can access it through Launchpad. This is what I was doing yesterday when the screen popped up and said, school's closed till May 4th. And I just about cried because I hadn't seen it yet. So we have a little distance learning icon down here at the bottom, this little house with the Wi-Fi signal, or you can just type distance learning and it'll pop up. You can click on the text to get to it. I'm all about the shortcuts. You shouldn't admit that. But there's a webinar tab up at the top. Lists our webinars. We will continue to offer webinars throughout the school year. But most importantly, we are adding our recorded webinars here. So if you weren't able to be part of the live experience, you can still get this information kind of on demand. But also, if you were part of the live experience and then you're sitting there going, okay, they said you click on blank and you can't remember what that one thing was, you can kind of scrub to the part that you want to watch and take advantage of it being there. So this recording will be available tomorrow morning. It takes a little bit of time to get it rendered and uploaded, but I will have it up there for you, or we will have it up there for you as soon as possible. Cool. I saw something pop up. Are we?
Yeah, they're just asking about surveys, if they have to fill out a survey.
No, you don't have to do a survey. Surveys are dumb. Sorry, that was being recorded. I shouldn't have said that. Surveys aren't dumb. We want your feedback, but we like getting your feedback. Like if you can email it or text it or instant message it to us. We don't always get to see the surveys at the end of these recording courses. So we don't always know, what was enjoyed, what wasn't, what we could do better, what we can offer more of. So always feel free to send that feedback, even if it's constructive criticism. We're ready to take it. We really are. We want to be the best we can be, just like we want our students to be.
So I don't see any more, I don't see any questions. So I think it's probably safe to say that we are done. So thank you guys for coming.
Yep.
Again, if y'all have questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. Reach out to your campus instructional technology specialist. We're here for you guys.
All right. Have a great night. Bye.